Insect body generally is divided into a series of segments which in primitive arthropods are known as somites or metameres. During the process of evolution, these somites get fused with each other in different ways, forming different body parts. The type of arrangement of these body segments in embryonic stage is known as primary segmentation, while in adult insects it is known as secondary segmentation, which differs from primary in having a sclerotized membranous intersegmental region. Insect body is divided into three regions or tagmata, namely head, thorax, and abdomen. This grouping of body segments into regions is known as tagmosis. Head. The head consists of 6 fused segments and has mouth parts, compound eyes, simple eyes or ocelli, and a pair of antennae. Thorax. The thorax consists of 3 segments, that is prothorax, mesothorax, and metathorax. Meso and metathorax are together known as pterothorax. All the 3 thoracic segments possess a pair of legs, and meso and metathorax possess one pair of wings. Abdomen. Abdomen has 7 to 11 segments with genital appendages on 8th and 9th segments. The structure of insect head. Insect head is a hard and highly sclerotized compact structure. It is the foremost part in the insect body, consisting of 6 segments that are fused to form the head capsule. The head segments can be divided into 2 regions, namely procephalon and gnathocephalon. Segment appendages. Pre-antennary segment, procephalon with no appendages. Antennary segments with antenna. Intercalary segments, procephalon with no appendages. Mandibular segment, gnathocephalon. Mandibles. First maxillary segment with maxillae. Second maxillary or labial segment, labium. Types of head. The orientation of head with respect to the rest of the body varies according to the position or projection of the mouth parts. The head of the insect can be classified as hypognathous, hypo meaning below, gnathous meaning jaw. Here, the head remains vertical and is at right angles to the long axis of the body, and mouth parts are ventrally placed and projected downwards. This is also known as orthopteroid type. Example, grasshopper, cockroach. Prognathous, pro meaning in, front. The head remains in the same axis to body and mouth parts are projected forward. This is also known as coleopteroid type, as in beetles. Opistognathus, opisto meaning behind. It is the same as the prognathus, but mouthparts are directed backward and held in between the forelegs. This is also known as hemipteroid or opisthorhynchus type. Example: bugs. Sclerites of head. The head capsule is formed by the union of number of sclerites or cuticular plates or areas which are joined together by means of cuticular lines or ridges known as sutures. A general insect possesses the following sclerites. Labrum. It is small sclerite that forms the upper lip of the mouth cavity. Clypeus. It is situated above the labrum and is divided into anterior anticlypus and posterior postclypus. Frons. It is the facial part of the insect consisting of median ocellus. The vertex. It is the top portion of the head behind the frons. Epicranium. It is the upper part of the head extending from the vertex to the occipital suture. Gena. It is the area extending from below the compound eyes to above the mandibles. Ocular sclerites. Cuticular ring-like structures around each compound eye. Antennal sclerites. These form the basis for the antennae and present around the scape, which are well developed in Plecoptera or stoneflies. Sutures of the head. The common sutures present in the head are clypeofrontal suture or epistomal suture, in which the suture is present between the clypeus and the frons. Epicranial suture. It is an inverted Y-shaped suture distributed above the facial region, extending up to the epicranial part of the head. Occipital suture. It is a U-shaped or horseshoe-shaped suture between the epicranium and the occiput. Post-occipital suture. It is the only real suture in the insect head. Posterior end of the head is marked by the post-occipital suture to which the sclerites are attached. As this suture separates the head from the neck, hence named as real suture. Genal suture. It is the sutures present on the lateral sides of the head, that is gena. Ocular suture. It is the circular suture present around each compound eye. Antennal suture. It is a marginal depressed ring around the antennal socket. Parts of insect head. Insect head contains mouth, eyes and antenna. Mouth parts. These are the organs primarily concerned with the uptake of food. Type of mouth parts: biting and chewing type, as in grasshoppers and cockroaches. Sucking type or haustellate type. Piercing and sucking type, as in plant bugs and mosquitoes. Rasping and sucking type, as in thrips. Sponging type, as in adult houseflies. Chewing and lapping type, as in honeybees. Siphoning type, as in butterflies and moths. Other types: mask type, nests of dragonflies. Degenerate type, as in maggots of Diptera. Biting and chewing type of mouth parts. This type is considered as primitive and is found in Orthoptera, Isoptera and Coleoptera larvae of Lepidoptera and Neuroptera. etc. The mouth parts include the following. Labrum. It is a small scleroid that forms the upper lip of the mouth cavity. On its inner surface, labrum consists of lobe-like structure called labrum epipharynx, which is well developed in Hymenoptera. Mandibles. These are the paired, unsegmented, strongest, and sclerotized structures called jaws. They are attached to the head capsule by means of two joints known as gynglimus and condyle. Maxillae. These are paired homologous structures with basal triangular cardo middle rectangular stripes and lateral palpebral bearing maxillary palpi and lobe-like inner lacinium and outer galea. Labium. It is known as the lower lip and is also called as second maxillae. It closes the mouth cavity from below. It is divided into proximal prementum, central mentum, and distal submentum. Hypopharynx. It is a tongue-like structure situated between labrum and labium, and ducts of salivary glands open on or near its base. Sucking type of mouth parts. This is considered as advanced type where the oral appendages get modified differently. Piercing and sucking type as in bedbugs and mosquitoes. The mouth parts are represented by rostrum or beak, which is a modification of the labium. Mandibles and maxillae are modified into sharp needle-like stylets. Sponging type of mouth parts, example, housefly. These mouth parts are represented by proboscis formed from the labium. The proboscis is divided into a basal rostrum, middle haustulum, and distal labellum. The labellum is a sponge-like structure. It is traversed by a number of narrow transverse channels called pseudotrachea, which converge at one point in the center of the labellum. Mandibles are absent or reduced. Maxillary palpi are 1 to 3 segmented. Chewing and lapping type of mouth parts, example, honeybees. The labrum and mandibles are biting type, whereas maxillae, labium, and hypopharynx combine together to form a sucking proboscis. The cardo of the maxillae unite with the submentum of labium, forming an inverted V-shaped lorum. The maxillary palpi are very small or reduced. Galea and lacinium of maxillae remain suspended from the cranial wall and attached at the lorum. Labial palpi are conspicuous and four-segmented. Elongated central organ of the proboscis is the glossa, and at the base of the glossae are two small concealed lobes called paraglossae. Glossae are provided with long hairs and a small spoon-shaped lobe called flabellum or bouton at its apex. Siphoning type of mouth parts, example, butterflies. These are specially modified for taking nectar from the flowers. The galea of maxilla form into a slender, hollow, tubular structure which remains as an elongated coiled proboscis underneath the head during non-feeding stage. Mandibles are totally absent. The labrum and maxilla palpi are reduced. Labium is modified into a small basal plate possessing a segmented labial palpi. The food channel is formed by the fusion of both the galea. Other types. Mask type of mouthparts. Example, nates of dragonflies. Mainly useful for catching the prey. The labium is modified into a mask where the prementum and postmentum forms into an elongated structure with a joint. Degenerate type of mouthparts. Example, maggots of Diptera. In apodous maggots, a definite head is absent and mouthparts are highly reduced and represented by a mouth hook or spine. Visual organs or photoreceptors. These are two types, compound eyes and simple eyes. Compound eyes. These organs possess the ability to perceive light, energy, and able to produce a nerve impulse. The compound eyes may be completely absent in insects like Protura, or they may remain reduced in endoparasitic Hymenoptera, Siphunculata, Siphonoptera, female cossettes, etc. The compound eyes are present on either side of the head capsule of an adult insect and also in the nymphs of Exoterigota. These are a pair and consist of a number of individual units or facets called ommatidia. The number of ommatidia varies from 1 in the worker of ant, Ponera punctatissima, to over 10,000 in the eyes of dragonflies. The shape of the compound eye vary based on the number of ommatidia. If the number of ommatidia is more, they remain closely packed and they attain a hexagonal shape. If they are few, they remain loosely packed and they attain circular shape. Structure of ommatidium. Ommatidium consists of two parts, dioptic apparatus which acts as lens, receptor apparatus which forms the image. The dioptic apparatus has cornea, cornegian cells, crystalline cone cells, primary pigment cells or iris pigment cells. The receptor apparatus consists of reticular cells, secondary pigment cells. Classification of compound eyes. Classification of compound eyes based on image formation as apposition eyes and superposition eyes. Simple eyes or ocelli. These are of two types. The dorsal ocelli, as seen in nymphs and adults of hemimetabolous insects and adults of holometabola. They vary from 3 to 4 in number, which are arranged in a triangular fashion between the compound eyes with a median ocellus. Lateral ocelli, also known as stomata, they are present on the lateral sides of the head of Endoterigota larva. They vary from 1 to 7 in number on each side. Antenna. Antennae are a pair of sensory preoral appendages arising from the second or antennal segment of the head, possessing nerves coming from deutocerebrum of the brain. They are well developed in adults and poorly developed in immature stages. Antennae are absent in the order Protura and class Arachnida, whereas two pairs of antennae or antennules are present in the class Crustacea. These are said to be uniramous, unbranched, segmented and mobile structures which are basally fixed into deep antennal socket, antennifer. Antennal socket is provided with an antennal suture. The base of the socket is connected to the edge of the socket by an articulatory membrane. This permits free movement of the antenna. Structure of antenna. Antenna consists of three parts. Scape. It is the first segment of the antenna. It articulates with the head capsule through antennifer, which provides movement for the scape. Pedicel. It is the second or middle segment of the antenna that forms a joint between the scape and flagellum. It consists of the special auditory organ known as Johnston's organ. Flagellum. It is the last antennal segment which consists of many segments that vary in shape, and flagellum may be non-muscular annulated type or muscular segmented type. Types of antennae. Setaceous, whip or bristle-like as in cockroach. The segments gradually decrease in from base to apex, presenting a whip or bristle-like structure. Monoliform, like string of beads as on termites. Segments are round or oval with well-developed constrictions between segments appearing like a string of beads. Pectinate, comb-like as in female arctid moth. Segments possess lateral processes on one side, giving a comb-like appearance. Serrate or saw-like as in pulse beetle. Segments of flagellum are triangular with projecting points on one side, giving saw-like appearance. Clavate or clubbed type as in butterflies. Segments gradually increase in diameter from base to tip, ending in a club-like apical part. Geniculate or elbowed as in ants. The first segment or scape is greatly elongated and flagellum always makes an angle with it. Lamellate or plate-like as in rhinoceros beetles. The terminal segments expand to one side and form broad plate or leaf-like structure. Flabellate or feather-like as in stylopids. Projections of some upper segments become long and form a feather-like structure called flabella. Plumose, brush-like with dense hairs as in male mosquito. Whorls of hairs arise from each point of the segment. Each whorl contains a number of hairs. Stylate, antennae with style as in robber fly. Antennae small, 3 to 4 segmented. Terminal segment elongate into a bristle-like structure called style. Insect abdomen. Abdomen forms the posterior part of the insect body. Pregenital appendages are absent in pterygotes and present in apterygotes. The abdomen in the embryo usually consists 12 segments. Later, the last segments degenerate and appear as 7 to 11 segments. The last segment is known as telson or tail as in the case of Protura. Abdominal segments from 1 to 7 are pregenital segments. The 8th and 9th are known as the genital segments as they form genital appendages, that is, ovipositor in females and aedegus or penis in males. The 10th and 11th segments are also known as postgenital segments. The 10th segment in general forms the supraanal plate, and the 11th segment is represented by a pair of anal cerci, usually known as postgenital abdominal appendages. Pregenital segments are represented by colophore, furcula, and tenaculum in columbella, styli in Thysanura, and cornicles on dorsal side of 5th and 6th abdominal segments in aphids. The abdominal segments consist of tracheal gills. In immature forms of trichopterans, mayflies, mosquitoes, etc. The last abdominal segments telescope into each other to form a pseudo-ovipositor in Diptera. The first abdominal segment gets fused to the metathorax, forming propodium, whereas the second abdominal segment forms a narrow pedicel or petiole followed by enlarged gaster. That is, the rest of the abdominal segments in Hymenoptera. Anamorphic development. In Protura, the first instar larva hatch with only 8 abdominal segments and telson. The remaining 3 segments are added at subsequent molts arising behind the last abdominal segment but in front of the telson. This type of development is called anamorphic development. Hemimorphic development. In pterygotes, a definite number of segments are present at hatching. The differentiation of segments take place in the embryo itself. This type of development is called epimorphic development. Summary. Insect body is divided into 3 regions or tagmata, namely head, thorax and abdomen. Head consists of fused 6 segments and have mouth parts, compound eyes, simple eyes, ocelli, and a pair of antennae. The head segments can be divided into 2 regions, that is, the procephalon and gnathocephalon, the mouth. Insect head contains mouth, eyes, and antenna. Mouth parts are classified as biting and chewing type, sucking type, and other types. There are 2 types of visual organs or photoreceptors, namely compound eyes and simple eyes. Antennae are a pair of sensory preoral appendages arising from second or antennal segment of the head, possessing nerves coming from deutocerebrum of the brain. Thorax consists of 3 segments, that is, prothorax, mesothorax and metathorax, together known as pterothorax. All of the thoracic segments possess a pair of legs and meso and metathorax possess 1 pair of wings. Abdomen forms the posterior part of the insect body. Pregenital appendages are absent in pterygotes and present in apterygotes. The abdomen in the embryo usually consists of 12 segments. Later, the last segments degenerate and appear as 7 to 11 segments. The abdominal segments from 1 to 7 are pregenital segments. The 8th and the 9th are known as the genital segments as they form genital appendages, that is, the ovipositor in females and the aedegus or penis in males. 10th and 11th segments are known as post-genital segments. The 10th segment in general forms the supraanal plate and the 11th segment is represented by a pair of anal cerci. Last segment is known as telson or tail as in the case of Protura.